Good morning. Happy Mother's Day to everyone here who is a mother, and happy Mother's Day to all our mothers.
It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine, and that's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, and you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long, a beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I would like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I have it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. Yes, I know it. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I wish I could be. I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. Did I ever tell you you're my hero? You're everything I wish I could be. And I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. 'Cause you are the wind beneath my wings. Oh, the wind beneath my wings.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Chard. I am the leader of the worship team. I see some familiar faces here from last week. Last week we had a spirited service and a spirited talkback. We spent some of last week reviewing that, and actually I reached out to Reverend Ed Townsend and said to him in part, many of our congregation believe that you did not listen to people with the same respect they listened to you. I told him I share that opinion, and I said all of the women who disagreed with you felt that you were dismissive, flippant, demeaning toward their point of view. Disrespectful, in fact, toward anyone who does not look like you and think like you. I wasn't talking about all women, I was talking about all of the women who complained, okay? I heard back from Ed. Ed said, I'm sorry things got tense and feelings were hurt. It was not my intention to divide the room. My plan was to address the existential dread I feel over our cultural divide by sharing some of my experience with the others. I'm sorry things got tense and feelings were hurt. Apologies. I guess I need to review my copy of How to Talk to People. And the worship team spent 3.5 hours together on a scheduled retreat yesterday and thought about what kind of response, what kind of procedures, if any, do we have if this kind of situation happened? And we easily came to the realization we already have a procedure in place. It's called our covenant. We're going to be more mindful about making sure that all of our speakers, guests, and guest ministers have been refreshed on the covenant prior to services and maybe even prior to talkback. And Karen might have a sentence or two about the covenant.
Sure, once I heard about this lively conversation, I thought it would be important to remember that in faith community, we are not perfect, nor can we be. We're here to learn how to live our beliefs and continue to return to our covenant when we do make mistakes. And so that is our superpower. And we continue to do our healing through the mistakes that are made. And for that, I'm very grateful. Let me go back to our welcome this morning. I wanted to tell you that as Unitarian Universalists, we drop things. And we also acknowledge that we're on traditional territory and homelands of the Oneida people, one of the original nations of the Haudenosaunee. We recognize and honor these ancestral grounds and support the resilience and strength that all Indigenous people have shown worldwide. I would also like to say that those of you who are new, you are so truly welcome. Those who have been here just a few times, this church is here to welcome all who walk in, stroll in, ride in, watch from home. This is a church where all are welcome and all faith traditions are welcome, all gender identities, all doubts, all convictions, sorrows and joys are welcome. Every part of your whole self is welcome here. And if you're new to this congregation, we're glad you've joined us, and we'd love to learn more about you and have you continue to learn more about us if you would like by signing up for the newsletter, which you can do. There's some very small half sheets at the front door here on the way out on the left that you can sign up and give to the usher, who will then make sure we get you on our newsletter list. And so let us continue with announcements. Some of you have seen a half sheet of paper that says the Central New York Chalice Lighters program. That is, today we are taking to let folks know that this Chalice Lighter program, through $20 donations from individuals around our country, is what creates a pool of finances that can support a congregation to do wonderful things. That seems better, thank you. Less reverberation. And so Paul Tenarowitz is not here right at the moment, but he will be someday soon. He's given me permission to let you know that because we have enough people in our congregation who have donated to the Chalice Lighters program, we qualified to apply for a grant. And we have received $20,000 to work on our sustainability to help us get off of fossil fuel. So that is a commitment the church will keep working on, but Chalice Lighters makes things like that possible for churches, for congregations all over the country. And so we're inviting you through this half sheet of paper to consider becoming a Chalice Lighter. And there's a lot more information. And there are people here who are Chalice Lighters. If you'd raise your hand, so if somebody has a question and would like to learn more about it, there are 4 or 5 of us here who have been part of that and can let you know what it's about or our experience of it. Another announcement, Carol Gable, the president of our Board of Trustees, wants to remind us all that the annual meeting where we approve a budget and elect our officials and talk about anything else that needs to be discussed as a body will happen on June 9. There will be a pre-meeting on June 2 where people are welcome to come and ask questions about the budget, any other concerns that you might have, but it's actually a 2-stage process for the congregation, so we don't feel like we have to cram all of our questions and feelings into one meeting. So you're welcome to be part of one or both of those things, and we really encourage you to be at the meeting on June 9. And I'm wanting to let you know that there are changes that are happening in the order of service that are evolutions based on the fact that our children now have programming. They're here at the beginning of the service, and then we will sing the children out to their classes right after Together Time. And you'll see on your order service, Together Time. That's a story for all ages. And then right after that, we sing a song to usher the children with our love into whatever's next for them. Also, we've changed. I was not aware of this until one of our ushers let us know in the worship team that ushers have for years been unable to participate at the end of the service. Why did I not figure that out? But ushers will collect during the offering, and they've got the baskets of money, and they traditionally just shoot right out of this space and go to the office and collect, they count all the money and put it in the safe, and they report. That means they don't get to be in the service. So now we've shifted it to bringing the money up here, and you all will witness that I will not do anything with that money. The money will be here, and they can participate in the service, and then they'll do their job after the service is over so they can be part of the service together. I think that the other piece is chalice lighting for those of you who watch the order of service and it matters to you when things happen. Our chalice lighting has happened now to bracket the whole service. It's the first thing we'll do together after announcements, and it'll be the last thing we do together because it is that central in who we are as a community. And so those are our announcements as far as I know. Are there any other that I was not aware of? Okay, beautiful. So this chalice lighting, and I have not asked anybody to come forward to do the chalice lighting. If there's anybody who'd just love to do that, it means picking up this candle and lighting our chalice. Please do come forward and light our chalice, Brenda. These words come from Connie Goodbread, a mentor for many hundreds of Unitarian Universalists. Everything we do is faith formation. Everything we teach is Unitarian Universalism. The congregation is the curriculum. We've lit our chalice in gratitude for a faith that invites us and holds us while we learn and we grow in order to live more closely to what we say we believe. And with that, there is a call to worship that comes from James Luther Adams, the theologian that I'm going to be talking about today. And I'm going to invite you to open your hymn book to 591. 591. And when you're ready, yeah, please do rise, because we'll just remain standing for the hymn right afterwards. So, 591, as you're able and want, please rise in body or spirit. All right. I am going to begin by reading the regular text, and you please, if you're willing, to read the italicized. And so we begin. I call that church free, which enters into covenant with the ultimate source of existence, that sustaining. It binds together families and generations, protecting against the sticky page problem. Oh my. It guards against idolatry of any human claim to absolute truth or authority. This covenant I call that church free, which brings individuals into a caring, trusting fellowship. It is open to insight and conscience from every source. It bursts through rigid tradition, giving rise to new and living language, to new and broader fellowship. The goal is the prophethood and the priesthood of all believers, the one for the liberty of prophesying, the other for the ministry of healing. And with you turning to page, the next hymn is 413. Oh, excuse me, 298, Wake Now My Senses. Now this is a very core piece. This hymn is sung at every ordination of a minister I've ever attended, at many, many very special events that focus on what it is that we call our ministry. And so I invite you to join together. Go ahead, Melissa.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky.
Thank you. Please be seated. For Together Time, Emma and Gabe have offered to help me out, but first I'll tell you that this is about the story of David and Goliath, which comes from what's called the Hebrew Bible. It's thousands of years old, very, very old, and what is also called the Christian Old Testament of the Bible. Now, this story is so common, it's so often used in our culture that people will use it when they don't even know the Bible story. They'll talk about the fact that she is going to go up against this Goliath of a corporation in order to help make them responsible and not do more harm. So she would be the David and the corporation would be the Goliath. So it's really uneven. Right? That's the point of the David and Goliath story. Well, I'm going to start this story, and then I'm going to invite Gabe and Emma to come forward. This child named David was taking care of his family sheep. That's what he did as soon as he grew up old enough to hold on to what you're going to show us, which is a slingshot. A very important job of protecting the sheep. If your family relies on those sheep for clothing, for food, and for everything else you need, those sheep are really important. So young David was using this slingshot. Would you come and show people what the slingshot is? This is a slingshot, not a very good one. This wouldn't do a very good job if I was going to try to keep a lion away from my sheep. However, these two know how to use a slingshot. So how would you use this?
You would put something like in the middle, and then you would pull this part back, and it would like push forward.
That's exactly right. Did you want to say anything else? Okay. So this is how it would be used. And this young David was bringing his slingshot with him wherever he goes because he needs to protect those sheep. But he had the job of taking care of the food and making sure the provisions got to his father and his brothers who were lining up and preparing for war. It was a very serious time. So David brought the food and his slingshot to the front lines, and there he saw this humongous human being, this man who is as tall. The Bible uses language I don't understand, but he's more than 9 feet tall. This is a very large human being who's got full armor on, and he's got big swords and lots of heavy weapons that everybody was absolutely scared of. But David, because he's able to take care of the sheep with a slingshot and keep a lion from eating his sheep, says, oh, I can do this because I have a very strong faith. I know I'll be protected, and I have skill. I have a lot of skill. So Goliath is, you can imagine, laughing that this little person is going to do something important like making him stop. But what happens? Do you remember?
He uses rocks, and he uses his slingshot to sling the rock right into Goliath's face.
Right into his forehead, boom. And Goliath just went, boom. He couldn't fight, he died, and that stopped the war. A 9-year-old, how old are you?
7.
Yep, just a little bit older, just a little bit older. In this ancient story, it was very important that it was a young person who ended up stopping a war because of the faith this young person had that they could do it, and because they had so much skill. So thank you so much. You can put those here if you'd like to. And now we're going to sing to the children. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 more children in the back and 2 right here, and you can go whenever you're ready to join the others. We're going to sing Go Now in Peace.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the
miss them while they're away. Now we take a breath. And between now and the sermon, I'm going to invite you to say the name of the one or those who mothered you. And that is, you know, our society has said mothers only do the mothering, or a particular woman does the mothering. But we know that mothering happens in lots of different ways, and it may even be yourself who has been doing the mothering in your life. So I'm going to start by saying the name of my mother, Patricia Carter Brammer. And I'm also going to say the name of my older sister, Nancy Lynn Brammer, because my mother had 7 of us. And my sister, my older sister, really took me by the hand through my growing up and effectively mothered me in addition to my mother. So I'm wondering if anybody else would like to honor the one or two who mothered them in their lives. Please go ahead, and then would you say your name? Yes.
Mary Lou Jones.
And would you pass it around?
Helen Ann Cavallari is my mother. She brought a very German way of raising in a very Italian family, so counteract. And my sister, who helped me at a time in my life when I couldn't. Her name is Lisa.
And Matt is going to hand it, yes.
So Jan Hofelt was my mom, and Montessori school teacher, one of the co-founders of the Head Start program for the county I grew up in, and very much pro-child and child development. And the other person is Esther Doyle. She was the chairperson of my dad's department, and she took us to great performances and taught us all about being cultured.
Thank you. Who else? Mary.
Carol Hackett McGurl. My dad was a very well-known public figure in this town who would be nothing and nowhere without my mother's backing and support, and neither would any of us 4 children.
For me, it's my grandmother, Norma, and she was half Native American, grew up in a, kind of an orphanage, didn't have a mother herself, and she ended up finding me. My own mother left in the middle of the night. A couple days later, my grandmother found me, and she raised me, and for 15 years, I had her influence, which has been the fuel for everything I do.
There's right.
From our Zoom, Branwen Drew would like to name her mother Charlotte Drew, and Doreen Markson's mother Hattie Steiner Riley.
Rena Ruth Drake, my mother.
On this side? There we go. And then over to Deborah when you're done.
My name is Chris Geisha, and my mother was Sophie, which Sophia means wisdom, and she certainly imparted that to me. I also want to share a little quick story that one time the newspaper ran a little, it wasn't really a contest, but a little thing where everybody was supposed to send in something about their mother. So what I sent in was that I thought my mother was modeled after, oh God, I can't think now, Tina Turner.
Wow.
For her energy and ability to go beyond the ages. And my thing was printed in the newspaper.
Henrietta Laura DeAndrea was my mother. My father was a German Marine. The once a Marine, always a Marine. And Mom was a loving Italian woman, and her mom, Angeline DeAndrea.
My mother, Kathy Chard, taught me how to be a mother.
Mm. There was a hand, I think, right here.
Joanne Haler Lindsley, whose own mother was not much of a mother, so she learned mothering by watching others around her and picking, that's the way I'm going to be.
Mm.
And it worked.
Susan Elizabeth Buffington, wonderful mom.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing. Mm. 5 smooth stones. So that the name of this sermon comes from that story, that ancient Hebrew story that talks about how one who seems powerless can overcome what seems so hopelessly, overwhelmingly powerful. And so my teacher of this, the teacher for many Unitarian Universals, is James Luther Adams. He was a theologian. A theologian is a person who has studied or continues to study religious beliefs and religions and creates a way to systematically understand and develop those beliefs and practices. Reverend James Luther Adams was a theologian, a prolific writer, and a Unitarian minister. He's considered the primary influence on our faith tradition in the 20th century. That's saying a lot because there are quite a few theologians for our faith tradition. He was said to have transformed American liberal religion. Every student of Unitarian Universalist ministry studies this man's work. He lived from 1901 to 1994, so witnessed and responded to the rise of German Nazism. He watched, like so many others, with horror as the growth of that power just continued to escalate. And he framed one of his responses as the 5 smooth stones, for obvious reasons, that this massive Goliath of a power was rising, and we had to figure out something in response. So for me, James Luther Adams framed a way to imagine a faithful life, a faith community response to push back against repressive powers or to prevent those repressive powers from evolving, seeping into our own traditions of faith, because that happens. He writes, "The faith of a church or the faith of a nation is as adequate only as it inspires and enables people to give of their time and energy to shape the institutions, social, economic, and political, of the common life." So he really challenged the ministry of the 20th century to say, our faith is only as good as it can be as it goes out into the public square and makes a difference there. The writing of James Luther Adams is dense and sometimes challenging to process, and on the back of your order of service are the 5 smooth stones using some of the language that he started this process with. So I'm going to go through them with you, and then we're going to, I'll invite you to consider another kind of language for each piece. And then I have 5 sort of smooth stones that I'm going to just hand out into this group. And if you have one, or you'll pass it along. And if you have one in your hand that moves you to want to say something, hang on to it until you have a chance to speak, okay? If you're ready to hand it on, just hand it on to someone else. Having a stone in your hand is not the only way you can speak. You can also just raise your hand. That will be fine too. So, religious liberalism depends on the principle. And by the way, religious liberalism is not a political stance. Liberalism has to do with the capacity and the commitment to use all ways of knowing, science, arts, psychology, etc., all ways of knowing in order to deepen our religious understandings. That's what religious liberalism. That's why Republicans can be religious liberals. That's why we cannot say what political perspective we all agree upon. That's not our purpose here. Let me try again. Religious liberalism depends on this principle that revelation, that's religious revelation, is continuous. It's not sealed with the Bible or with any other script. According to a liberal religious person, tradition is a living tradition, and we're always learning new truths. Second one, all relations between persons ought ideally to rest on mutual free consent and not on coercion. We freely choose to enter into relationship with one another. Justice. Religious liberalism affirms the moral obligation to direct one's effort towards the establishment of a just and loving community. The role of the prophet, the one who speaks the truth, is central and indispensable in liberalism. And agency. We deny the immaculate conception of virtue and affirm the necessity of social incarnation. Good things don't just happen. People make good things happen. And hope. Liberalism holds that the resources, both divine and human, are available for the achievement of meaningful change and justify an attitude of ultimate optimism. I have to say, that's the one that a lot of us have a great deal of difficulty with, that sense of optimism, which feels so very hard in situations like our own, where it feels like evil is on the rise. The negation of value feels like it's on the rise. So if we are going to integrate these values that he's talking about, I have the stones, written on them, ongoing revelation, open to learn. You want good? You must do good. Mutuality, no coercion. Create community for freedom to find truth. And lastly, optimism, hope, and we persevere. So actually, I'm gonna, Ryan, do you mind just handing, not throwing? So the invitation here is that at some point after this next comment, that when you have a stone, consider it and pass it along if you'd like to anyone. If you really would like to say something, if it moves you to want to share something with the congregation, please hang on to it, and we'll have the microphone passing soon. So the piece of context that I want to share with you is from Connie Goodbread, whose words I said at the beginning about everything we do in Unitarian Universalism is faith development, and the church is our curriculum. Her context, very similar to what I identify as the context my mother had, of you say you have these values, now you need to make them real by starting a literacy program, by providing a food program, by providing assistance for childcare for migrant day workers. I grew up in this essence of you got to make your values real. Connie Goodbread, still with us, still actively working in the Unitarian Universalist Association as a staff person. You should look her up. She's really something. She says, the added piece, that these stones come from a river, but that river is specifically a river of humility. That if we use humility, if we contextualize each of these values in humility, it'll make a profound difference. So when you think about the stone you have, or the particular value that he has written about, the 5 smooth stones on the back of your order of service, if you'd like to speak about one, wait for the microphone, but raise your hand, let us know. And also say something about how humility is relevant to that particular value. So here. This is the river. Here's the humility. And so the hope is that's going to fly away, don't worry. The hope is that we can together think about, hopefully integrating a bit, what our liberal religious faith is about as reflected in these 5 smooth stones. When especially we take these 5 smooth stones from a river of humility. And so, is there anyone who would like to begin? Yes, please, John. Hang on, microphone somewhere. Here, thank you. And if you identify yourself before you speak, then people on Zoom will know who you are.
Okay. Hello, this is John Camilleri. I'd like to speak about hope and the achievement of meaningful change. On the spectrum from pessimism to optimism, I was on the left side of the spectrum where I thought the problems and the differences we have in this country and in the world were just too big to address. So I stayed away from it. Where I am now is I see the continuum moving a little bit away from pessimism, more towards optimism, but I'm a long way from there. One thing about humility is I realize that I alone can't fix anything. And then we go back to pessimism. However, seeing that every little, small deed or work or action that I take in conjunction with everyone else can make a difference. So I'm starting small. And so I'm really working towards not being so pessimistic and learning from other people, especially Ken Drake, which is social justice, what difference I can make given where I am right now.
Thank you. Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Geisha, and my stone has one thing on one side and another thing on another side. One side says ongoing revelation, and the other side says open to learn. And this caught my attention, especially in the light of the first of these smooth stones, religious liberalism. And I'm glad that you, Reverend Karen, had a chance to explain what that meant. And I discovered it was something that I deeply think about now. And the living tradition is very important to me. Living traditions all over the world to share our culture and our creativity. And the humility part is kind of interesting because what I'm discovering now is that my brain does not always do the best job of charting my course through life, that I have to be humble and listen to my heart and listen to what is happening and plot my course through there. And it can be a lovely feeling to join with energies that are swirling around us And so that's my new mission.
Thank you. I see Miranda. Ken, did you have your hand up?
So I'm Miranda Hofelt, and I wanted to remark on agency. We were talking about our mothers. My mother was part of the Church of the Brethren, which is a pacifist church whose motto is live simply so others may simply live. And they are also pacifists, so they created something called, after World War II, called Heifer International. I don't know if anybody is familiar with it, because it's a farming, they're mainly German farmers, but they all provided a heifer to people in World War II with the understanding that once that heifer had another female, they would give it to their neighbor. So I think in terms of agency and also humility, because humility is me as a teenager having to go to the center where all the heifers were put out and having to spend 5 days helping muck out the stalls and feed the heifers and move them around. So yeah, that taught me a lot of humility, but.
Thank you.
Sure.
Who else?
From our online from Branwen, in comment to humility, she says, "Don't know all the answers or even all the questions."
Thank you, Branwen. Right, also here. And then to Ken.
Hi, Carol Dinger, and with regard to agency, good things don't just happen, people make them happen. I believe a little bit of kindness every day makes the world a better place, and in that gives you hope and optimism.
Thank you.
Simple as holding the door for somebody.
I'm going to respond to the same.
Your name?
Ken Drake. On the rock, it says, "We persevere, optimism, and hope." Prior to today, this morning, I've been contemplating where our country started to go wrong. And I kind of go back to my college days because 68, 69, we had protest movements at SUNY Potsdam. And I remember one of my fraternity brothers and I having quite a verbal exchange. He was very pro-war, and I was more on the peace activist side. In this morning's Washington Post, Doris Kearns Goodwin spoke about the civil rights movement because that was going on at the same time. And we made so many mistakes prior to and subsequently to that time in history. And she said that the civil rights movement succeeded in large part, not because of the politicians of the time, but because people like us marched together. And all I can remember is you remember the Berrigan brothers?
Mm-hmm.
And there were other priests, and one just passed away recently, and I almost lit a candle that Sunday. He was a priest that was almost excommunicated because he believed so much in peace. I mean, if you can believe it. But remember those pictures of everyone walking, of different faiths, with everyone, arm in arm? Boy, we've devolved. So we have to persevere, right? We have to have some optimism that things can be turned around because it's not good right now.
I'm sensing that there may be more, but I'm also seeing the clock that to be fair to the other parts of our community life, we need to bring this to a close. And I really hope you continue to talk to each other during coffee hour about this. Thank you all who spoke and who will speak to one another about this. Our UU faith challenges us and nurtures us to grow and make a difference in our lives and in the larger world. Our collective faith cannot be named as one belief in God or Spirit or Jesus or Buddha, but rather our faith stems from a commitment to our values and the beauty that arises as we act on our values and promises for how we intend to be together in the world. Again, Connie Goodbread, everything we do is faith formation. Everything we teach is Unitarian Universalism. Helps if you have the right page. And the congregation is the curriculum. Again, everything we do is faith formation. Everything we teach is Unitarian Universalism. The congregation is the curriculum. She also says we will never be perfect, and that is all right. But while perfection is unavailable, we should be trying to be the very best Unitarian Universalists we can be. May we heed the spirit of the 5 smooth stones that arise from the river of humility as we go forward together. May it be so for us all. And together, let's turn to hymn number 6 in the gray hymnal. Hymn number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Please rise and bow to your spirit.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Please be seated. And we take now the offering. The ushers will come forward, and I'll remind everyone that the collection that is being made right now will be brought to the front so that our wonderful ushers can stay with us. This money collected serves to support the vision of this congregation. We celebrate the spirit of generosity that's growing and growing in this congregation, and thank the many ways that people, each of us, offers not only money, but time, talent, and loving care to support the beautiful vision of this faith community. Blessed be and amen. For the benediction, I read Duke Gray. This was, interestingly, one that was read throughout my upbringing as a Methodist many, many years ago. So may the blessing of truth be upon us, the power of love direct us and sustain us, and may the peace of this community preserve our going out and our coming in from this time forth until we meet again. We will read together the words in your order of service as I extinguish the chalice. We extinguish
Come stop your crying, it'll be alright. Just take my hand and hold it tight. I will protect you from all around you. I will be here, don't you cry. For one so small, you seem so strong. My arms will hold you, keep you safe and warm. This bond between us can't be broken. I will be here, don't you cry. 'Cause you'll be in my heart. Yes, you'll be in my heart. From this day on, now and forevermore. You'll be in my heart, no matter what they say. You'll be here in my heart always. Why can't they understand the way we feel? They just don't trust what they can't explain. I know we're different, but deep inside us, we're not that different at all. And you'll be in my heart. Yes, you'll be in my heart. From this day on, now and forevermore. Don't listen to them, 'cause what do they know? We need each other to have to hold. They'll see in time, I know. When destiny calls you, you must be strong. I may not be with you, but you've got to hold on. They'll see in time, I know. We'll show them together, 'cause you'll be in my heart. Believe me, you'll be in my heart. From this day on, now and forevermore. Oh, you'll be in my heart, no matter what they say. You'll be here in my heart always. Always, I'll be with you. I'll be there for you always, always and always. Just look over your shoulder. Just look over your shoulder. Just look over your shoulder. I'll be there always. Happy Mother's Day.